Hey listeners, I just want to let you know about a really fun event that we have coming up on Friday, October 23rd at Buckeye Bourbon House on Gay Street in Columbus, Ohio. It'll start around 6:30 p.m. It's called Women in Whiskey, Stop Mansplaining Me. It's a live podcast and tasting with some amazing trailblazing women in the whiskey industry. If you'd like to check us out, you can find tickets at ColumbusCraftCocktailTour.com. And just so you know, our very first guest is going to be the ladies from Uncle Nearest Tennessee Whiskey, the most awarded whiskey in the world right now. So you don't want to miss out on this. So hope to see you there. Cheers. Hey listeners, on this episode of If This Bar Could Talk, we have a guest host.
Jesse Hubbard is in the house.
From the Great Southern Whiskey Bar. And his guest is none other than Jason Potts, his boss. They're going to talk about home brewing and tell some ghost stories
and
from the West.
Everything that they're doing under quarantine.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
Welcome to If This Bar Could Talk, a podcast about bartenders and the stories they have to tell, as well as the storied history of cocktails, spirits, and bars.
Welcome, everybody, to If This Bar Could Talk. I am your guest host for this evening, Jesse Hubbard. Super excited to be here. And joining me from the Great Southern Whiskey Bar is Jason Potts. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Super excited. Super excited to have you here. Yep.
I'm excited to be here, too.
Awesome. And so for those of you listening, you may be thinking, well, Jason's from the Great Southern Whiskey Bar. Jesse, aren't you also from the Great Southern Whiskey Bar? And the answer is, yes, I am. And if you're asking yourselves, is Jason your boss?
Yes,
the answer
I am.
would be, yes, he is. But I want to make it abundantly clear that I am not having him on the show to talk with him to be a kiss-up. I am having him, contrary to popular belief, I'm having him on here because outside of work, we are real-life friends. And and even though this sounds like a kissy-uppy thing to say, you're one of the people I respect most in the industry here. And
I appreciate that.
I just think it'd be a lot of fun for us to kind of chat a little bit and have this kind of a neat little moment that we can have in a time capsule during this crazy year right now. And
it is a little crazy. And I really appreciate this opportunity. And, I definitely consider you one of my close friends. And this is a great opportunity I like how you say that, little time capsule to kind of remember this 2020.
We can look back someday and say, man, remember that year? That sucked.
That was a rough year.
But that was a good conversation that we had. That was a lot of fun. So you are the food and beverage manager.
Yes.
At the Westin Hotel.
Correct.
Which is including the Great Southern Whiskey Bar, but also other outlets in there. So tell everybody a little bit about what exactly it is that you do there.
Well, what do I do there? I like to think I do a little bit of everything there. I'll step back a little bit. I joined Westin about 4 years ago. I was actually back of the house. I was a kitchen supervisor, starting back there to make sure all the food went out solid, looked great, and make sure that we did our best to make sure everything looked good. Eventually, they asked that maybe go to the front of house and see what the guests were doing and make sure the guests were happy at the same time. So about 2 years ago, I went to the front of house, and that is in the middle of our transition when we were transforming the Thurber's Bar to the Great Southern Whiskey Bar. So I did some of that conversion. I also was taking over the High Street Grill area, which is our breakfast offering in the mornings. And then I also helped take care of the banquets for all the weddings and other social events that we have, taking care of all their whiskey needs, liquor needs, things of that nature. So
I definitely want to dive in more in a little bit later about the transformation from Thurber's to the Whiskey Bar.
Sure.
And some of the other aspects of what your job was when you first came on board. But so for now, though, you and I are both not working there because the bar has been closed since March.
Yeah, March 19th was my last day there. So technically, I'm furloughed, you're furloughed. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to getting back. Unfortunately, as of this time, I'm not sure when that's going to be, but fingers crossed sooner than later. So let's
send this to the executive committee and all the higher ups.
I like that idea.
We're out. Jason and me, we're out. We're talking to people. Let's reopen the bar, you guys.
Yeah, we got this advertising going on. Let's take advantage of it while we got a chance. So
maybe it'll work, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. So you talked a little bit about you were back of the house. So for those that don't know, and that's essentially the kitchen area, working behind the scenes, getting all the food and everything out. Then you move the front of house, which is more of engagement with the customers and the guests and things like that. That's, I think, a little bit of a unique transition. You see it once in a while, but not often do you see somebody go from being, you were a chef in the back of the house. You weren't just working there. So you had a very prominent position working in the kitchen. And then you go to a management position in front of the guests, which is a totally different world. How did that come about?
It is kind of I'm not going to say it's unique, but it doesn't happen a lot. There's two different mindsets. When you're in the back of the house, the ticket rolls in, you have your muscle memory going, you're executing XYZ, you're making the food look as great as, executive chef wants it to look, and you're getting it out in a timely manner. That's your focus. Taking care of the food, making sure it looks great, make sure it tastes great. Then you make that transition to the front of house, and it's not, you want great food, but it's also guest focused, and it's a different way of looking at the service, and it's making that transition with, you have your bartenders and your servers communicating with the guests, try to figure out what the guest wants, and then they try to get that information to the back of the house. And then there's always sometimes that little bit of miscommunication, and there's a piece to that it's making that transition to go from the back of the house to front of house is thinking about what you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, front of house, you got to be absolutely guest focused and figure out how to take care of the guests, and to take care of the guests the way they want to be taken care of, not the way that you think they should be taken care of.
Sure.
In the back of the house, it's okay. I got to execute this food this way. This steak goes this way. This pasta goes this way. But sometimes you're in the front of the house, you got to really anticipate, what the guests are looking for and ask certain questions. So yeah, it was a transition. I like to think of myself as a fairly good people person. I get along with most people in general. Hopefully you agree with that thought process.
You're all right.
I'm all right. Okay. I'll go with that. But
no, absolutely, for sure.
But it's fun being in front of the guests and getting to know them. It's fun to see the reactions. Obviously, there's the downside of, when things don't go right, you got to take the brunt of that. And, got to fall on that sword and make sure that, hey, if we didn't do it right this time, can you give us an opportunity to do it right the second time? But for the most part, that's few and far between. So, it's a different transition, but it's great being in front of people. It's great to learn about new guests. It's great to see the regulars, and it's just a good time. So,
what would you say was the biggest adjustment, or something maybe that you didn't realize being back of house, that when you came front of house, you're like, oh wow, this is what it's like, or this is different? Is there anything that stands out?
Something that stands out that I guess, to answer the question up front, I can't think of one right offhand. And part of that is when I was back of house, when I had a bad steak, let's say, if it wasn't so busy, I would be the one to personally take that steak back out to the guest. And I would face that guest and I would, let them know, hey, I apologize, this wasn't quite right. I'll have them cut it right there in front of me. And I made sure I did that guest interaction when I was in the back of the house. So that transition for me wasn't so much a shock. It was certainly something I could handle. So I knew kind of what to expect. It's more the behind the scenes things, the being responsible for inventories, being responsible for, how liquor costs are come up and how things are made and stuff like that. That was probably a bigger shock than the transition from working with the food to the transition with interacting with the guest.
That makes sense. And to have an element of kind of engagement with the guests when you were the chef probably made it a kind of an easier transition.
Oh yeah.
Not every chef does that. Some do, some don't.
You're right. Some do, some don't. Most of the time, people do not give the chef a hard time. If there's been a change, they'll give the front of house manager a mouthful for sure. But normally when the chef comes out, that was the fun part. It's like, hey, I'm really sorry this didn't quite work out. Oh, this is great. Thank you for bringing this out to me.
It's like special treatment.
It
like
is
VIP treatment. Right?
If I come out with the white coat, everybody's like, oh, that's great. I'm glad you came out. Thank you so much. Food's been great. But when you got the business suit on and it's all that, it's like, oh no, I don't like this staff.
Now you're prepared
like this.
to get yelled at, right? Prior to coming in to the Westin, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got your start in the industry.
In the industry, wow. 10 years ago, give or take. I had left a position with, I was working for a computer company. I was a sales engineer, and I wanted to get out of sales, and I wanted to move into the culinary world. Oddly enough, it's funny to say this now, I got into the culinary world because I thought there would always be a job for me to make sure I always had a job, like,
oh man,
where do you, where you can't find a culinary job, right?
That one stings, right?
Oh yeah, that does sting, but
it's sensible.
It thought pretty good back then, but anyway, so I got into, I did some a year's worth of what do you want to call that? Night classes, just getting introduced to the field. I took a job up in Kalahari Resorts up in the Sandusky area. I was a pastry cook up there. I worked under a great pastry chef up there.
Sandusky, isn't that where the auto parts store in Tommy Boy was?
Yes.
Callahan Auto Parts?
Callahan Auto Parts.
I think, was that it?
That's exactly where that is.
Anyway, I had to, when I hear Sandusky, I always think that.
So, I worked there for a while, and then my...
Did you ever meet Big Tom Callahan?
I'd never met Big Tom Callahan. No, unfortunately. That would have been one to remember.
Would have been a treat. Anyway, I'll stop.
No, that's all right. So I followed my chef Ann over to the Ritz-Carlton in Cleveland, worked there for about a year. And then I took a job down in Columbus at the Renaissance, worked there for about 4 years. This was all behind the line, working my way up from a line cook up to a kitchen supervisor. And then from there, I took a job over at the Westin. There I worked my way up into front of house management. So definitely plenty of years of behind the house, back of the house service. Definitely get back there and take care of whatever needs taken care of. Front of the house is a little newer to me, but learning every day and making the most of it. So
yeah, I think as far as like transitions go, you took over that position not too terribly long before I came on board at the Westin, right?
That is correct. Actually, you were one of my first hires,
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing, is to get a solid bar manager, bar lead, someone that can run the bar, because let's face it, Jason, you're from behind the line, so you don't know what you're doing up front. So I could definitely take care of the guests and take care of the paperwork side of things, but I need someone to take care of the cocktails, take care of the knowledge that I needed to get caught up on. So I'd like to think I made a pretty good leap on getting caught up on my whiskeys and my liquors and all that kind of good stuff. But I needed you to make sure it all worked out smoothly. So
I try to do my part. But we're not talking about me. We're talking about you.
Oh, it's so much easier to talk about you, though.
No, but you're talking about your continuing education. I know that's really important to you. You are, it's worth mentioning for sure, you're a bourbon steward with the Stave Thief Society.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Which is really cool.
I worked on that. I got influenced or motivated. Leanne achieved that, and I was like, wow, I want to get some knowledge as well. So I made sure I took my classes and learned some things, and I passed it. So I got some basic knowledge there, so I can work off that. So
yeah, that's really cool. And then, I mean, you even started, I guess, since then, really being engaged, and I think even led a couple tastings at the Westin. Oh yeah,
it's fun to Ohio being the control state it is. You don't get a wide variety of everything you would like to try. So to be able to come up with different ways to make different tastings knowledgeable and something that you can learn from is always fun. I've learned a great deal from Leanne and Blair, and I'm looking forward to continue to do that as soon as this silliness passes by. So
absolutely, and it's a lot harder to do, to organize and to execute a tasting than what people may realize. It's, you don't just pick any 3 random whiskeys and throw them in there. There needs to be a theme often, or some sort of connection, and you need to know what you're talking about, because people are going to these and they're relying on you for that information and that education, so to speak.
Yeah, you're looking to get some knowledge off it. I mean, just picking up 3 random whiskeys doesn't really teach you anything, but if you pick up 3 different ryes, or 3 different proofs or bill recipes, there's all different things you can learn from when you do these. So it's not just picking them and throwing them out there. It's what kind of value add can you put to that tasting, so they can walk away saying, I didn't know that.
Let's take a little break here, and I want to come back with you and talk about some of the beer that you've been brewing.
My beer I've been brewing.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because often this is a point, or at least at some point in the show, Leanne will break out and the guest will make a cocktail. But since you've been brewing beer, I thought that was a really fun twist on it.
My COVID beer.
Your COVID beer.
You know, I grew a COVID beard for a while, and I shaved that, and then so I've been working on my COVID beer as well. So
all right, well we're gonna come back in a minute and talk about COVID beards and COVID beers.
That sounds great.
All right. All right, and we are back. Jason Potts is with us here, and he just poured some of the beer he's been brewing during the quarantine, COVID crisis, furlough from Weston, which is one of the ways he's definitely occupied his time, and I think made the most of it.
Trying to stay busy over the last couple months, 6 months, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fun way to do that. So tell us a little bit about what you brought here today, some of the beers that you brewed. What do we have?
All right, well, you know, when COVID happened, got sent home, and I definitely wanted to work on the house a little bit, but all the house projects got done, so it's like, well, what am I going to do now? So I have a tap at home and two taps actually, and it's like, well, I'm tired of buying beer, so maybe I'll make some beer. So started digging into the world of home brewing, got online, did some research, and actually my son is into home brewing as well, so I got with him, and it's like, hey, let's have some fun. So I brewed up my first stout. Probably started that back in late July, and had fun with this project. It was a whiskey barrel stout, very dark. Obviously, it's not a summer beer per se, but I'm a stout guy, so I thought it'd be a fun one to play around with. And it had whiskey barrel. I was like, well, that's great. So, you know, there's whiskey barrel chips that were soaked in that as well, and it's a very dark, very full flavored beer. So it was a fun one to play around with. Still got a lot to learn, but a fun little project. So that was the first one.
What do I have here? So I don't have the stout. What do you have for me?
No, I it's a wheat beer. It's an orange wheat beer. If you want to name it something, it's kind of a clone of a Blue Moon. So it's a sweetness with a little bit of no, what? I'm sorry. I gave you the Dunkel.
I was going to say it's a little dark for a wheat.
Yeah, you're right. I gave you the Dunkel.
I didn't want to criticize. I'm not brewing beer. You're brewing beer. I didn't want to say anything. I was I was fascinated by the dark wheat.
No, that's actually a Dunkel. You are right. The Dunkel is actually one of my favorite beers. I actually get that a lot when I go to German houses and things of that nature. So this one I just finished up, and it's probably a little early to tap it. Carbonation is just getting there, but tasted it earlier today, and it was a great caramel notes, a little bit of coffee in that. It's one of my, probably of the three I've done so far, probably my favorite one right there. And then earlier in the summer, I was also doing, like I said, the wheat one as well. So, but yeah, the one you just had there is the Dunkel.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I just tasted it while you were describing it. Nicely done. And you have never done this before?
No, I've never been into brewing or anything of that nature, but I want to try to find a way to continue some education, and being that distilling is kind of frowned upon here in the States, I can't distill my what I would like to do, so we'll stick with brewing beer. I could, yes, but it's frowned upon.
It's frowned upon.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is what I've decided to do, and in all honesty, if you're thinking about bourbons and rye and stuff like that, this is actually the first step in doing that. Is you're going to do a mash bill, and you're going to make a wort, and then it's after this process that you'll go on to distill it and things of that nature. So it's kind of the first step of making a whiskey. So
yeah, I mean, I honestly, I'm impressed. These are like the first beers that you brewed, and they are legitimately good. So I've had beer that people have brewed right out of the gate, and it's hit or miss. It's not always great, just because you're learning, right? So
this is learning process. And
unless, of course, wait a minute, did you have a bunch that you did and they just were terrible?
No, not yet.
You're omitting them.
I'm waiting for my first bad batch, but so far I've been really lucky.
Yeah, they're great.
Obviously, the biggest thing of brewing or anything is the sanitation part. So being I work back at house, I know how to sanitize. I know how to take care of that bit of it, but just working with these basic recipes. I mean, I'm no master brewer or anything. I'm not creating things from scratch. I'm working with pre-assigned recipes, but it's a fun little hobby to get into and start having some fun with. So
yeah, you want to keep it going? Is this kind of your thing now?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna definitely keep this going. I have a tap at home that has I can fit 2 6 barrels in there, and I'm not gonna buy any more 6 barrels anymore. I'll just brew what I can and put it on. I got these little corny kegs that I didn't know existed until real recently. So again, my being a noob at all this, but I can do a 6-gallon batch or 5-gallon batch, put it in a corny keg, put it on my tap, and that's it. So
right on, man.
That's a little fun. So
what's next? What's the next beer?
The next bill I just started an Oktoberfest. That won't be ready for quite some time. And then I came across some rice wine or sake brewing. It's actually brewed closer to beer, and I actually brought the ingredients in to do that. So I'll probably be doing that later this weekend, just for something completely off the wall.
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a weird one for sure.
It's gonna be very weird, but I'm a big sake drinker. Let me take that back. I enjoy sake. Yeah. I'm not a big drinker. I don't have a collection of it, but I enjoy sake. So
had it once.
No, I have it when I go out.
Big no.
But so yeah, I'm going to be playing around with that too. But again, this is just it's fun, but it's a way to just kind of continue some education, something I can talk about when I get back to work. And
I think it's super cool. Yeah. I think it's super cool. I have never brewed beer, but my wife Christina has.
Oh yeah,
and she is one of these days we're going to brew something together. But she's got that on me. I love beer. I know a thing or two about it, but I've never brewed it, and I don't know. Maybe it's because my boss just never gives me enough time off to really enjoy any hobbies outside of work. For the most part, I don't know.
Yeah, I know your boss. He's a real Scrooge. I get it.
I'm kidding. No, but one of these days I would love to chat with like all of you. You and Christina together. We can kind of maybe brew something together.
That'd be fantastic.
I think it'd be fun. I
love it.
I shouldn't say I've never brewed beer. I've helped. I've had a hand in brewing beer, but I've never actually done it myself. So I'm fascinated by it. I think it's really cool. So yeah, man, thanks so much for sharing these beers.
Oh, absolutely.
This is really cool, and I think it's awesome that you're doing this. What else have you been doing to kind of keep yourself busy and sane since our bar has been closed?
Busy and sane since March 19th, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I'd mentioned I'm looking forward to selling my house, get my house on the market sometime. So I had about a year's worth of projects I had to work on, try to get my ceilings replaced and all the plasters coming down. I had all this work to do. And over the first 3 months, I got all that work done. So I'm ready to get my house on the market. So hopefully once I get back to work and get the house on the market, and we'll start doing that. After that, my son got married 2 weeks ago. So my focus was on getting him married and getting him out of the house. He's been out. Let's face it, he's been out of the house for a while now, but that's done and over with now. So that was a fun little project.
Sure. Yeah.
I was in charge of all the beer and liquor. I guess being the food and beverage manager, I better show on how to take care of an open bar. So
yeah, you got to show out in your son's wedding.
That's right.
If that's what you do for your living. Yeah, absolutely.
So that was we took care of that, and then now it's I'm playing around with the brewing, and then I'm actually going to start doing some online classes and just try to stay sane because again I don't know when I'm going back. I don't know when we're going back. I'm looking forward to it.
Sure.
But I can't just sit around the house, so I'll be doing some online stuff and
right on
taking some classes. So
very cool.
Try to stay sane. So
and brewing beer.
Brewing
more beer for sure.
Unfortunately, brewing beer is like a 3 or 4 hour process. The rest of it's just waiting for it to mature. So I can't do that all the time. So though tasting it along the way is nice.
That's a nice perk. So, obviously you're a big fan of beer, and with your work and what you do, there's the knowledge of whiskeys and cocktails and things of that nature. I want to talk a little bit about some of your favorite beers and whiskeys and cocktails and some of the things that inspired you to want to continue to learn more about them. So we're on the topic of beer. What are some of your favorite breweries around town here in Columbus?
I enjoy Wolf Ridge. It's probably one of the first ones I got associated with when I took over the food and beverage manager. I know Jenna came over and we talked a little bit, and she gave me a tour of the place, and that really got me introduced to some of the behind the scenes of brewing and things like that. Again, they do a great stout over there, the Dire Wolf, and all the variations of that. So that's probably one of my bigger ones. There are so many here in Columbus. I don't know where to give all the love to, but that's the first one that comes to my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. There's a lot here. People are always surprised whenever I tell them how many breweries we have in Columbus.
There's a ton, and a lot of them are great. A lot of great ones out there.
I don't know the exact number anymore because it's always changing. But so what about what are some of your favorite cocktails? Either that you have enjoyed for a long time or that you've kind of discovered along the way with your job.
I would have to say my favorite cocktail is any cocktail that Jesse Hubbard makes for me.
That is the correct answer.
I know it is. Jesse,
and I did not tell him to say that. Thanks, man.
Seriously
though.
Seriously. I do enjoy a good solid old fashioned. It's very basic. It's very classic. A little bit of sweetness to it. As far as cocktails go, an old fashioned. I am a Scotch guy.
I know you are.
I do enjoy my rusty nails as well. So.
Yeah.
So a little bit of Drambuie and a little bit of Scotch goes a long way.
Do you remember when we went to B-Dubs
last
my
goodness.
year? Okay, so
I do remember.
So
that.
me and Jason met up after work one day. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and they're not known for their cocktails, obviously. But we got some wings, and I think I got a beer. And Jason wanted to get a rusty nail, and I'm not hating on anybody because I've been there. We've all been there. You're starting at some point or whatever. But it's not that they didn't know how to make a rusty nail. They said they could only. So, you have the portions for a rusty nail. They could not meet the portions unless they did it in 2 separate drinks.
I do remember.
So they said the only way we can sell you, it was the weirdest thing. The only way we can sell you a rusty nail is if we give you 2 rusty nails.
Well, that sounds like a great marketing plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why I didn't think of that.
But you had to pay for 2.
But you did have to pay for 2.
It was the weirdest, and we didn't question it. We're just like, whatever, I guess you get 2
We're
drinks
just getting
now.
started. We'll enjoy both, but
it was odd.
That was odd.
It was odd. So anybody listening, go to B-Dubs and order rusty nail and see what happens. Let us know. I'm curious. I'm curious to hear about your rusty nail experiences at Buffalo Wild Wings around the country.
Wow.
So yeah, that always makes me laugh. So yeah, I know you love Scotch. And you like Johnny Walker, right? That's your favorite? Is it your go-to?
Well, it depends.
That's what you had at the wedding was the Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker Double Black.
Double Black.
It is a nice blend. When I'm looking for a nice campfire, Lefroy is always a good go-to as well. And there's some solid scotches out there. So
Lefroy,
Lefroy is a good.
That's a campfire.
That's a good campfire.
I like it. A lot of people like it, but it's a heavy hitter.
That is. One that's not quite so heavy hitting is the Auchentoshan. I do enjoy that one as well. It's quite a bit smoother Scotch, but there's a couple of them out there. But my go-to when I'm going to the store, I'll probably pick up Johnny Walker Double Black. So,
yeah, that's a good one, most definitely. So we talked a little bit ago about your role at the West End and the Great Southern Whiskey Bar.
Sure. Your
career, but I want to go back to that a little bit. We've talked in the past, and I know that from our conversations, you were an Eagle Scout. Are you? Once you're an Eagle Scout, are you always an Eagle Scout?
Well, once an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout.
Okay,
yes,
you are an Eagle Scout.
I earned the rank. It never goes away. So,
which I thought that was interesting. I didn't know too much about. I didn't know too much about that until my cousin out in Massachusetts became one, and they were making a really big deal about it. And I was confused because I thought, isn't it just like a Boy Scout or something you just sign up for? It's like, oh no, it's a real accomplishment. You have to earn that. And so we were talking about that, and I thought it was really cool. Like you touched on some of the skills that you got as a teenager from that, and how it seemingly helped you in a career in management with leadership and things of that nature. So
yeah, what do
you think?
When I think of the Boy Scout path and the things I did back there, yeah, there was the camping and the first aid and citizenship in the community, nation, world, and all this kind of these merit badges, but you don't recognize it when you're younger. Later on, I became a scoutmaster, and I got a better feel for what you were doing, but it's really about developing leadership skills. It's not necessarily just getting 21 merit badges and then, you get this. It's about, how you go about doing that. There's a project at the very end of to earn your Eagle Scout badge. You have to lead a project, take control of it, something that's going to, in theory, help the community out. You manage different resources, you manage your scouts, and you're in charge of this project. And that's really, when you think back to it and what I learned through it, I learned a lot of different skill sets. I went up in a plane because I got to learn my airplane merit badge, and I learned about trucking merit badges. I mean, there's all these different things, and they're
Didn't
great.
you tell me you don't like flying?
I'm not a big flyer. I don't like being up high, but
So you earned that badge.
but I earned that badge. But it's not about the different individual badges. It's about the trail, the goal to get to the end, to learn how to manage your time, manage your resources, and then when you get high enough up in rank, then how to manage your team. And I'd like to think I took some of those skill sets with me as I learned how to be a team leader and to use that as part of my management skill sets and things of that nature. As well as when my boys got old enough to be in Scouts, and I took on that leadership role to help them get their Eagle Scout as well. So cool. It was a great time to just learn all those different skill sets and how to manage different things, different aspects of your life and stuff like that. So yeah, I learned a lot of great things in scouting.
And you also coached soccer as well.
I did. I played soccer, third grade up through high school. I missed an opportunity. The coach from Ohio Dominican came to me and tried to recruit me onto the Ohio Dominican team when I was a senior. And unfortunately, I had other paths in mind, and I did not take that opportunity to further my career there. So I stopped playing high school after my senior year. But then I went on to coach my kids in soccer. And again, another opportunity to learn some leadership skills. That was obviously a lot more fun, but there is some organization with that as well. And just making sure that there is a common goal and everybody understands what that common goal is. And it may not necessarily be to win. It may be to accomplish X, Y, Z. And, did we learn this week and stuff like that? So
no, I think that's fascinating. And because, you don't really think about it often whenever you see somebody that's in a career path of management but when you break it down and you look into the path that they took to get there, there's certain things that maybe you wouldn't think of right out of the gate. But these are two instances of being an Eagle Scout and then, essentially coaching your children through it, and then coaching soccer, leadership, team building exercises and things like that clearly have benefited you along the way in your adult life.
Sure, they definitely translate over to when I'm trying to teach my team how to get to certain goals, or, here's what we're trying to do, whether it's, put out a better product or whether we're trying to market something a little bit better. It's coming up with an idea of how we're going to come up with a common goal and how we're going to get there together and then make it.
And that brings us to your current position. Once again, we'll talk a little bit about the Weston. And I know you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the unique aspects of the job there, but one thing in particular that I wanted to touch a little bit more on was I know it is something you're proud of as an accomplishment is the transition from formerly Thurber's Bar to the Great Southern Whiskey Bar.
Yeah, so when I took over about 2 years ago, one of the tasks I was assigned with was we wanted to update the theme a little bit. Mm-hmm. Wasn't necessarily a popular idea, and some people really enjoyed the Thurber name and the Thurber Bar, and I understand that completely. But I was tasked with.
I think that the regular host of this show is one of those.
I wasn't going to name anything, but I do understand that. Thurber was a name here in Columbus, and I understand that, and I respect that.
But I think Leanne likes the whiskey bar too. Yeah.
Wow.
A reluctant yes.
Reluctant yes. But that being said, I understand that there's feelings involved with that. But yes, I was pretty proud of the fact that we got this transition. We transitioned over to the whiskey bar. The whole thought process of focusing on whiskeys, focusing on kind of I don't want to say an old Western feel, but that old bar, whiskey barrels, the old pictures, updating some uniforms, just have that old feel to the bar. Mm-hmm. And along with that transition, it wasn't just the bar, but it was also the staff as well. And again, like I mentioned earlier, bringing you aboard was part of that transition, and it was a great time to, bring some new life into that. We have some staff that's been there a while, and I think they're pretty happy with it. We got some new staff that I think are happy with it. So yeah, it's been it's been a great accomplishment on my part. I feel that
I think it has. I think that we've seen some awesome things happen there, and with you leading the way. So that's been really cool, and you should be proud of that. Like I'm proud to be a part of it. It's funny that you mentioned that, like me coming on right as that transition was happening, because I remember when I sat down to meet with all of you guys about coming on board, it was the funniest thing. I'm sitting with you, the GM of the hotel, and then the head of HR. And everybody's like, oh, so you moved here from Louisville. And they're just like, everybody was really excited that I came from Louisville. Like I had some sort of a secret key to unlock the magic trick of how to make a whiskey bar work. And I'm like, I mean, like they make whiskey and bourbon there, but like,
are you saying you don't have that key? Because that's why we brought you on.
Yeah, I maybe I have a key. I don't know if it's the key, but I have a key. No, but it was just the funniest thing. Like just the fact that I came from Louisville, you guys were like, oh, that's perfect. That's probably why I got the job, just where I lived beforehand.
Okay, that was probably part of it, but I think the personality goes with it, and a little bit of skill sets you have. I mean, you have some skills behind the bar. So.
A little bit. I can pour a beer.
You can pour a beer? You make a cocktail or two that
one or two.
I can get down every now and then. So.
Thanks, man. That's really nice.
Oh, no problem.
No, but it was really cool to come on at that time, because it was like a whiskey bar in name only whenever I started there, and everybody was still trying to figure it out. So it was really cool. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't all.
It was an idea.
It looked like Thurber's, but it was still called the Whiskey Bar. So I get a lot of compliments on our bar from various people around town talking about how like it's something that's on their radar now, or it's like it's a legit bar to go to for the younger crowd, whereas before it wasn't. And and that's the things that you did to make it that. So it's a compliment to you, really.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think it's something that we did. We wanted to bring in the outside crowd, and we wanted to give something to the people staying at the West End, somewhere to go that they would enjoy coming back to, week after week when they come to visit. So I think we did a great job in coming up with this concept and executing it. So.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. And the great staff that we have there.
Oh, it's an awesome staff. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Was that difficult to put together a staff for not just the whiskey bar, but for the entire F&B department? I know the answer to this, but why don't you tell everybody else? Because it's a unique position that you are in, because you have the breakfast part of it. You have room service. You have you have hand and banquets, even though that's not your primary department, and also the whiskey bar. So
yeah, there's a lot of pieces that go with putting together a great staff. And I'm not going to say I brought on everybody, but it is giving the idea, or giving that common goal that we had talked about earlier, is like everybody's on the same page to strive for this. We've had some turnover at the whiskey bar, and we brought in new staff, and I think the staff that you and I have brought on has had that same goal in mind, and that's why we bring those people on. As far as some of the other parts of the department, it's just a matter of making sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
Everyone's unique and different, and you can't manage everybody the exact same way, and it's just a matter of bringing together a team that's going to, look at the goal that we need to get to, and they're going to get to it their way, and I'm going to work with them to get to it that way. So it's been a great time. And during this crisis or silliness that we've been having on, it's nice to hear from my staff every now and then. I get texts from them, hey, what's going on? And it's like, I don't really know, but good to hear from you. Hope you're hanging in there. So yeah. I'm looking forward to, I'm not even going to send out a text. I'm looking forward to making that phone call. Like, hey, yeah. I'm ready to go back. You ready to go back?
I remember, I don't know, it was a few weeks ago or whatever, and I called you. I told Christina about this, and we laughed. I called you up just to chat and just to see if you had heard anything or whatever. Before I even was able to ask if you knew anything about when the bar was going to open back up again, you asked me, have you heard anything? And I was like, well, that answers that. So if my boss hasn't heard anything, then we're not going back right now.
I don't want to make it sound like I haven't heard anything specific. I have been in touch with, management.
I know you have, but you were just having fun.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny. I thought that was funny. So, it's an old hotel.
Oh, yes, very old hotel.
Very old hotel. And with that comes rumors of ghosts and hauntings. You know where I'm going with this, right?
I know where you're going with that. So something that we're not supposed to talk about, right?
Yeah, something we're not supposed to talk about. So there's a lot of stories that, I've talked about a little bit on here in the past with Leanne and Blair, and a lot of stories people like to talk about, with old buildings in general, but our hotel, there's certain hauntings that people claim to have seen or talk about, and it's all kind of an interesting topic. But I remember, was it last Halloween or the Halloween before?
I want to say it was the first one.
The first Halloween.
Yeah, the
that
first
we worked
Halloween
together.
I'm there, yeah.
So we had a ghost tour in, and I was behind the bar. You were working the floor.
I was behind the floor, just kind of sitting back and listening to these stories that, quite frankly, I've heard bits and pieces of, but I got off, doing what I was doing, and I'm going to sit down. I'm going to listen to some of these stories. So,
yeah, and what's cool about these ghost tours, we get them coming in from time to time, especially around Halloween. They come in. The building was built in 1897, oldest hotel in Columbus. So this is one of the spots that they always go to, and so they're telling stories. And at that point, it was my first Halloween there, so I had heard bits and pieces of some of them.
Sure.
I'd heard some parts, but there was some that I hadn't heard. And they started talking about, so let me preface this by saying that your office is not quite on the second floor, but it's kind of an in-between floor going up some steps,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
It's like in between the first and second floor, I guess.
in between,
is the best way to
right?
put it.
They call it the mezzanine area or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's in between, right?
And so we're listening to the tour guide talk about, different stories, and all of a sudden, this one particular story caught my attention because it sounded to me like they were describing your office. I wasn't entirely sure, but I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, well, that's the only room it could be. But there was, the stories about there's a ghost that haunts it because of a room it used to be, and, yada, yada, yada. So I'm listening. I'm like, that sounds weird. I look over to you. Your face is white as a ghost. Your mouth is wide open. And you look back at me and you say, without a hint of humor, are they talking about my office?
That's exactly it.
And I think that they were.
Yeah, they were.
So that was interesting. That was fun. But I laugh about that all the time because we're both listening. I look over and you're just like, holy crap.
They're talking about my office. I've not heard the story. I've heard the classic ones about Ophelia and all this and that. But they got talking about this story about over in the middle area here. It's not on the first floor, not on the second floor. This lady, so and so, died, and the old lady, and it's what's an office now. And I'm just, I sure I turned completely white, and I remember you looking at me. I was like, excuse me, is that mine?
Because I often will spend time in there late at night. 2-3 in the morning, you know what I mean? But it's not, the hotel's open, but it's just like, oh man, that's Jason's office is haunted. Whoa. Or at least according to the tour guide. But so that's really funny. I got the biggest kick out of that, and I thought that was worth talking about. Without a doubt, it's just one of my favorite memories of working with you there. But there's a lot of history there in general, not just talking about ghost stories and stuff like that.
120 plus years. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
A lot of presidents have stayed there. We get a lot of celebrities that stay there currently, even, and it's really cool to just be a part of that.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great building, and there's a lot of history there, and it's really fun when people come up and they just start walking the floors. And if it's one of those times I'm not overly busy, it's great to talk to them. And we have some great paintings that are in that second floor that all the different hotels that have burned down in Columbus, and that's one of the rooms that are named after, and just the different used to be a billiard room there. There used to be a hair salon or barbershop there. It's just a lot of different history that people really enjoy hearing about. So I'm no expert on Weston by any means, but just those little tidbits, it's fun to talk to the guests about, and it's a great place to just learn a little bit. So.
It really is. One that, and I'm only repeating this because I read it on one of the little pieces, little plaques. Or
the little plaques that are around.
But one that I think is cool that everybody seems to enjoy is up until 1982, every sitting president had stayed at the hotel.
Yeah.
From 1897 to 1982. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
That is.
I'm assuming it's true because it's on the wall.
It's on the plaque. It's got to be.
People
like
really?
That, right?
I'm like, I don't know. They have it on the wall, so it must be true. But there's a lot of interesting tidbits like that. So one of the things that I've always appreciated about you is that the importance you put on your staff having a work-life balance. And while right now there isn't any work at the Great Southern Whiskey Bar to balance.
Yeah, there's no balance right now. It's just all life.
I look forward to getting back to a time where, we're working crazy hours and trying to like, how am I going to get a day off here, or there or whatever, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely, yeah.
And I know you feel the same way. It's we'll get back to that point, but I think that it's something that is important for everybody now that we're not in the normal hours of working at the whiskey bar for the entire staff, to still try to find ways to have that balance, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, you need a balance in anything you're doing. Obviously, you can't sit at home, all day long and, at least for me, not accomplish something. So, in the beginning, it was getting house done, and then later on, it was focusing on my son's wedding, and then now I'm, playing around, learning about beers and things of that nature. But you still need some sort of balance. At least for me, I can't sit around in my bed all day and just not do anything. So
right.
I want to learn something. I want to continue growing and things of that nature. There's got to be a balance of, video games and getting something accomplished. So
absolutely. And I look forward to when we can get back to work at the Great Southern Whiskey Bar and do what we do. But in the meantime, like I said earlier in the show, I think this is a really cool little moment for us to kind of sit down and chat. Not like we don't do it regularly anyway, but to have a record of it and like this neat little time capsule we can look back on. It's super fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is a great opportunity. I really appreciate you inviting me to do this. I thank Leanne and Blair as well to letting me come out and do this. Like you said, it's a great little time capsule and something to talk about. And hopefully a year from now, 10 years from now, we can look back at this and just laugh at like, what were you doing back then? Well, I had nothing else going on. I wasn't working 60 hours at the whiskey bar.
When you started brewing beer. Yeah, all that cool stuff. So Jason Potts, the food and beverage manager at the Great Southern Whiskey Bar, thank you again for being here today. Thank you to Leanne and Blair for having me as the guest host. And I am Jesse Hubbard. This has been If This Bar Could Talk. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Listeners, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Seabus Craft Cocktail Tour, and visit our website at columbuscraftcocktailtour.com for cocktail tour dates, women and whiskey tastings, and other events and merchandise. Thanks to our producer, Greg Hansberry, and to the biographer for our original music. Please remember to drink responsibly, tip appropriately, and be cocktail curious. Cheers!
This has been a Last Call Productions production.